Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a travel mug comparison between the Ninja Sip Perfection and the Ninja Thirsti. Which one of these mugs is more suited for you? Watch this video and find out. So you ready? Let's get into this. Just a quick note, my reviews are based upon the things that I think are important. That might be a little bit different for you, so what I recommend doing is after watching my video, you watch a couple of other videos made by different content creators. That way you get a wider range of likes and dislikes and testing criteria. That in turn should help you make a more informed buying decision, and that is the most important thing of all. I'm not really going to do an in-depth review here on either one of these because I do have reviews for both of these things up on the channel. If you're interested in those, I will have links at the end of the video and up here as well. Alright, here's the Thirsti, and here is the Sip Perfection. As far as the lid goes, they're designed a little bit different. The Sip Perfection has this locking top that pops up and pops down. It just has a little sip hole here, and that's probably the best way to drink hot beverages anyway. That limits the amount of liquid that can come out at once, and it also limits the amount of skin you can burn off of the roof of your mouth if you drink too much at one time.
Are you serious?
If we open this up, you can see how this works from the inside right here. It's just got a little spring-loaded attachment on one side and a little rubber seal on the other. For cleaning, you can twist this little dial right here, and then from the top, you can take off the entire lid and it makes it really accessible to clean up. The main body is made out of stainless steel. It's got sort of a vinyl overlay on it, and it also has a little silicone sleeve on the bottom that makes it a little bit nicer on your countertop so you don't get scratched as much. And this can also fill in a little bit of space on your cup holders if they don't quite fit right. This uses a double-walled stainless steel construction with a vacuum layer in the middle. And that's also a reason why a lot of travel mugs like this seem really big on the outside, but then on the inside, they don't really hold a lot. You'll notice that a lot with those plastic thermoses. In fact, if you're looking like this, you can see the actual thickness because other than this lip right here, the stainless interior is pretty much at the same level of this lip. And if you look on the outside, that really comes out quite a lot. These are dishwasher safe according to Ninja, but the dishwasher isn't recommended for these because if you put it in the dishwasher, you can mess up this vinyl exterior. That won't happen right away, but it will happen over time, and I've done it several times with different travel mugs. If you'd like to know exactly how this multi-layer thing works, you can check out my full review on this travel mug. Now, the Ninja Thirsti, you can see right away we have a completely different design here. Let's take this lid off. This has a little travel handle on it, and the top here is a twist on top. The cap is actually plastic. This is not stainless steel, even though it kind of looks like it on camera. And it twists on instead of snapping on. That makes sure that this has an airtight seal because this is designed for carbonated drinks. So to open this up, you would untwist this, and then once it's off, then you can pop it open. This can flop back and forth, but if you push it open all the way, it'll snap back here so it doesn't come back and hit you in the face, which I managed to do twice. You can see the threads inside right here for this, and also a silicone seal. It's got a pressure release here just in case you build up too much pressure on the inside of the container by shaking up your carbonated beverage. And on the inside, it's also got another silicone seal on the outer part where it connects to your stainless steel carafe. This plastic up top here is also pretty thick. That's because this lid has got a little bit of insulation built into it as well. It's not as thick as it looks, but it is about half that thickness. The drink design on this mug is polar opposite of what it is with the Sip Perfection. Much larger drink hole. In fact, just looking in there on camera, you can see all the way down into the bottom of the carafe. And that's obviously because you're doing this more for cold beverages and carbonated beverages. You can drink coffee out of here, but you do got to be careful with that because you will get a lot out of this all at one time. There's nothing really there to prevent you from taking large gulps. Looking inside of here, you can see that this is already a lot different than the Sip Perfection. This actually can hold 24 ounces versus the Sip Perfection's 16 ounces. This also has the double-walled stainless steel construction, just like the Sip Perfection does, except it's done a lot thinner. In fact, if you look down in the cup here, you can see that the insides of this cup follow the design on the outside of it as well. Remember, the Sip Perfection was almost flat going all the way down. That's why this has the extra space in this, but it also means that the double-walled stainless construction on this travel mug is going to have much less space in there for the vacuum layer. The inside of this is really shiny, that's because it is polished that way on purpose. That's that way to make it a little bit harder for bubbles to attach to the sides of the inside of this container, and that in turn helps carbonation last longer in this mug as well. To reiterate, this holds 24 ounces and this holds 16 ounces. I showed you before how the size is roughly the same. This might be a tiny bit shorter, but if you look at the diameter of these mugs, those are also almost exactly the same. When you think about it, it does make sense though. And when you're drinking hot beverages, you're sipping them and you don't typically have a whole bunch that you bring with you. 16 ounces is a pretty big thing for that. But when you drink cold beverages, you typically have a lot more. Therefore, you would want more space. That doesn't really apply to me because when I drink coffee, I could drink 5 of these back to back every day. Anyway, being marketed to different audiences, we should do some testing to see how well each one of these does. All right, for our testing, we're gonna do 3 different things. First, we're gonna do hot coffee. Next, we're gonna do cold iced water. And then for our third test, we're gonna do a cold carbonated beverage. We're gonna limit to 16 ounces because the Sip Perfection maxes out at 16 ounces. Even though the Thirsti does hold more, we're not gonna fill that up all the way because the way a lot of the heat retention works is by total energy in the actual liquid. If I put more liquid in this, then it's gonna have more energy to retain as well. Finally, we're gonna use my Frenchie cup here as a baseline. This has got that same double-walled construction, but it also has this clear plastic lid. This is similar to what most people end up having around their house, and it's only being included so we can see how it compares to having something like this. So first, we'll throw in our coffee. Okay, and for the Thirsti, since this is a bigger container, I poured the coffee into this measuring cup first to make sure that we're doing 16 ounces. And that is 156, 156, 156. An interesting note, I decided to use this thermometer right here to measure the temperature in these. When I use this gun, the temperature varies really wildly between these, even though I know the temperature is the same. So it must have something to do with the way this laser is reflecting off the side of these containers that's changing the numbers. This goes straight in the liquid, so it should give us a much more accurate number. Now we're gonna let these sit here for about 2 hours, and then we'll compare results. Okay, we finished our first 2 hours. Let's take a quick look. First, we'll look at the baseline. It looks like our baseline coffee is at 136 degrees. Okay, next we'll move on to the Sip Perfect. And we are at 138, 140. So this is hanging in there pretty good. You can already see a big difference there with our baseline. Okay, and now we're moving on to our Thirsti. This should be pretty interesting because this one isn't really supposed to be for this. And checking on that, we are at also 140. So it's hanging in there right with the Sip Perfect. Let's see what happens if we give it a little bit more time. All right, now we're at 4 hours. We'll check the baseline first. Okay, our baseline's at 118 degrees. Moving on to the Sip Perfection. Okay, and that one is at 129 degrees. Okay, so we're almost 130, so starting to widen the gap with our baseline. Okay, and then over to the Thirsti. Remember, the Sip Perfect was 129, and this one is at 127. So we're losing a little bit of ground, but not anywhere near as bad as I thought. Let's give this one more shot. Okay, it's 1 a.m. and we're right past 6 hours. So let's check this out. Baseline, and we're still at about 109 degrees. Not too bad for a cup like this, especially when you got a lid like this that's really just letting heat out. All right, on to the Sip Perfect. Looks like we're at 118 degrees still. 118 degrees after 6 hours. That's not scorching hot by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a pretty warm, drinkable temperature still. Okay, now for the Thirsti. Remember, we were talking about those side walls being a lot thinner, so it'd be interesting to see how this does. And it looks like that's at 116, so it's still pretty good. I mean, as time continues to go on, there is a little bit more separation, but really this did a lot better than I thought it was going to, especially with those walls being so much thinner like that. So I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with this thing. But if we're talking about a hot drink, I still prefer that a lot more than that. One additional thing to think about is that if you're using a cup like this for a hot beverage, if you tip this over, this is going to leak your coffee all over the place. It's not designed to seal this up, whereas both of these are going to be spill proof. This might be to a certain extent, but not for very long, that's for sure. Okay, let's move on to our next test. Next, we're going to do a cold carbonated drink test. I've already cleaned these out and cooled them down to make sure that there's no residual heat going on in them. I'm going to measure out 1 cup of ice and put it in each one of these. And then we're going to run 12 ounces of carbonated seltzer water into each one of these. After that, I'm going to let them sit overnight and we'll see how well they do. For each of these, I'm going to put the drink in first, and then we're going to put the ice in over the top of it because otherwise this is going to overflow. Also, we're going to give each one 12 ounces of liquid because if I go to 18, it's going to overflow 2 of these. Okay, top this off with the ice, slowly, and we'll throw on the lid. Onto the Sip Perfect. And in with the ice on this. And then on to the Thirsti. Okay. And our ice. I went back and forth a little bit on whether I should put ice into these or not because I am doing an ice water test anyway. And I decided that if you're getting a fizzy drink done, you're probably putting some ice in it anyway, and carbonation holds a lot better in a cold beverage too. If I just ran this test without the ice, the machine is going to produce a drink that's about 47, 48 degrees. And I really didn't feel like that was cold enough to be reasonable. So these will get a little bit of ice just to be a little bit more realistic. Okay, it's been about 16 hours. I think that's plenty of time to test for our carbonation. And you can see in our baseline cup, there are still a couple of pieces of ice in here. We didn't really start with that much, so that's pretty good. These cups are pretty decent. Let's check for our carbonation. Oh, that's not very carbonated at all. Yeah, that's flat. So that's sort of what I expect with something like this because that's not going to make a proper seal in any way, shape, or form. Okay, next we are going to test the Sip Perfect. You can see that this also has about the same amount of ice left in it as our baseline did. But again, that's a good thing because it means that this is still cold. I can see some bubbles coming up though, so maybe this is going to do better on the carbonation. That looks a lot better. You can see all the bubbles. Looking at the baseline, you can see there are a couple of bubbles in there, but I mean, it's very, very little. So I'll say that's a positive. Okay, next, we're going to check out the Ninja Thirsti. Well, now in here, I still have most of my ice in here, so it looks like just about all the ice is still in here. You know what, we're gonna check that too. Let's pour some of this carbonated drink out of here. So that looks identical to how it went in, really. Remember, I only put 1 cup of ice in here, and that's still pretty close to that. I'd say I have at least 3/4 of that ice left. The carbonation is still really strong in this too. So there's definitely something to be said about all that. Let's put these side by side so you can see. So this is our baseline right there. This is the Sip Perfect, which by the way isn't designed for carbonated drinks. This is actually supposed to be for hot drinks. And then here is the Ninja Thirsti, which Ninja says is specifically designed for cold carbonated drinks. And just look at the difference in the carbonation on these. I mean, that's pretty stark, and the fact that this still has this much ice in it, that's pretty damn good. So this one managed to stay colder, and it preserved a heck of a lot more of the carbonation too. Okay, now we're gonna do our ice water test. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 2 cups of ice, put that into each one of these, and then I'm gonna add the same amount of cold water into each of them, and we're gonna see how long it takes before the ice melts. It's not gonna be a super scientific test. In fact, if you're carrying one of these around with an iced drink in it, and you're shaking it around, it's going to cause friction and the ice is going to melt faster. And these are just going to be sitting here, so it's really going to be a best case scenario. Okay, I actually put 1.5 cups of ice in each of these and 10 ounces of water. And the reason I did that was because it was the most I can fit into these cups right here. If you look at this Thirsti container, you can see there's still quite a bit of space left in there because this is 24 ounce. But if I put any more in there, it's gonna kind of skew the results a little bit more than it has to. And we don't wanna do that. Make sure these are on here tight. And now, once again, we wait. Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. Okay, it's been 28 hours since I put the ice water into these. Let's see how everything worked out. For our baseline, we've got this cup of water here with no ice in it. Honestly though, it's kind of exactly what you'd expect out of a cup like this, but the water, it's cold. The water temperature of this right now is about 39 degrees. That's fantastic. After a full day in a cup like this with this kind of lid, it's still 39 degrees. That means that double-walled stainless steel interior here is really helping keep that cold. So even though this is just my baseline test, just goes to show you that these type of cups are pretty darn good. Okay, now for the Sip Perfect. Let's open this guy up. Also, no ice. That's all gone. Kind of thought there might be some in there this time though, so a little bit surprised with that. It's still cold, but it's 42 degrees. I mean, that baseline cup had that under 40 degrees. This is still really cold. I'm not complaining about that or anything, but I'm a little bit surprised that it didn't at least keep it as cold as that other cup. But in Ninja's defense, this particular mug is designed for hot beverages with their heat store technology. So definitely there's something about that that is affecting how long this ice is going to stay in here. What exactly that is hard to say because Ninja doesn't make the details of that stuff public, but just so you know, it's definitely a thing. Okay, last, we are on to the Ninja Thirsti cup. This feels cold on the exterior of it, by the way, so definitely we're gonna have some cold contents here, right? Well, here you can see that big block of ice in there. Not sure how well you're gonna be able to see that because it is a little bit dark. So definitely, since there is existing ice in there, this has gotta be the coldest one. I can't really stick this thermometer down in here to measure that because I'm gonna be touching the ice and it's not gonna display properly, but I can pour the water out and measure it that way. Let's see, and the water temperature on that is 32 degrees. Sitting longer than a full day with a cup and a half of ice in here and some water, it's still kept that at 32 degrees the whole time. And judging by the amount of ice that we still have in here, that's probably gonna last at least through a second day. In fact, let's see if I can get that ice block out of here so you can see exactly how much of this is left. Okay, and that right there is how much ice we still have left in here. That's still well over half. Pretty damn good. The Ninja Sip Perfection and the Ninja Thirsti can do a lot of the same things. However, they are targeted to distinctly different audiences. Regardless of what the marketing says, at the end of the day, if you're more of a fan of hot beverages, the Ninja Sip Perfection is going to be a better travel mug. However, if your main thing is cold drinks, especially fizzy ones, then the Ninja Thirsti is a way better option. But if you really want to, you can still get away with using either one of them for either task. If you'd like a little bit more information about either the Ninja Thirsti travel mug or the Ninja Sip Perfection, I do have Amazon affiliate affiliate links to those down in the description of the video. If you buy anything through those links, I do make a small commission, but it doesn't change the price that you pay 1 cent. Hey, Joe's Phenomenal now has channel memberships. For most people, you can see a join button down below the video window that you can click and see what type of perks I'm offering. If you're using an iOS device, you might not be able to see it, and if that's the case, I do have a link down in the description of the video as well. If you like this video and you like fizzy drinks, you might want to check out my review right here for the Ninja Thirsti carbonated drink machine. That thing's pretty cool, and at least in my case, it's completely eliminated buying fizzy drinks from the store. Well, that's it for now. I hope to see you back again here really soon, and until that time, I'm Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.